The fact that the 1929 agreement did not include Ethiopia was a mistake, and it was the wrongdoing between the two parties, the British and Egyptian parties. If the British were trying to lure Egyptians against anti-British nationalism in Sudan and in Egypt, don't forget Egypt got independence in 1922, but British interest was still embedded in Egypt. There was legitimate resistance against the British continued domination of Egypt and continued colonization of Sudan. So maybe the British were trying to win over the Egyptians by generously, giving them the historical and natural rights over the Nile. I think that was a kind of, trying to approach Egyptians, to win them over, I think. But that was the British. But the Egyptians, knowing very well that they are neighbors, historically tied together, and in the Nile Basin, the two countries cannot really be against each other and cannot be secretive of each other, shouldn't have signed any agreement behind the back of the neighbors with whom they share the water resources. That was really a big mistake. The 1959 agreement was in fact a bigger mistake committed on the part of the Egyptians and the Sudanese, because Ethiopia should have been included, because that was the only independent country in the Nile Basin. Although the other countries have also their own legitimate interest, to be addressed as partners in this agreement, directly or indirectly. But the Ethiopian case, that Ethiopia was not included, was a big mistake. But Ethiopia made it sure that, having also known that such a deal was going on, and Ethiopia was very much opposed to that exclusionist policy and the negotiation, and sent a notice to both parties that Ethiopia has the right to use the water resources like any other water resources, any other natural resources in the country, for the benefit of the growing population, and also for the need of economic development for the current and future generation of the country. So that is reserving the right to utilize the water resources within the Ethiopian territorial jurisdiction. But Ethiopia made also clear that if the neighboring countries in the Nile Basin wish to participate in negotiation and in sharing, Ethiopia would be more than happy to share the benefits, the bounty that God has given the country. These are neighbors and having common interests in a number of areas, but they have also competing interests, you see. So that competing interest was not handled transparently and consultatively. So the fact the transparency and consultation was not happening between the two countries might be because of suspicion, because of some unknown fear, I think. Egypt and Ethiopia are very close geographically. I think there were a lot of visits and shares through the Abu Nas previously, and through the traders and visitors. So I think they knew geography of each other a bit. Therefore, I don't think that is a legitimate basis for any fear or suspicion. This is not the first time Ethiopia is raising about the need for the water resources for the country's economic development. You see, in late 1920s and early 1930s, Ethiopia had a big plan to develop the Abai waters and Lake Tana there was a study, and in fact there was a contract given to an American company, but because of the intervention of war, you see, the Second World War was warming up, and people are more or less diplomatically as well as militarily very much engaged, so that did not proceed. And in 1950s up to mid-1960s, Ethiopia had a very big study for the overall development of the Abai Basin, and that was not translated into implementation and so on for a number of diplomatic economic reasons. And now the present negotiation started way back in 1997. But actually, it became a serious business of negotiation under the auspices of Nile Basin Initiative since 1999. And all 9 countries, including Ethiopia and Egypt, have been negotiating for 10 years until May 2009, when this instrument was adopted in Kinshasa. You see, so it was not Ethiopia; it's 9 countries. They have been negotiating in every article, in every provision, on every issue. So this is not only Ethiopia raising now, all Nile Basin countries, but now it has become really disturbing that at the time of signing this agreement, when Egypt and Sudan said they will not sign, because I think from various readings and argumentation and so on, that water security of the present appropriation for Sudan and Egypt will be somehow maintained. But other countries would say, and they have clearly said, no, it should be water security for all the basin countries, not only for Egypt and Sudan. But the water utilization of the Nile Basin should be on equitable and reasonable basis, without appreciable harm to any country. I think Ethiopia needs to develop the entire water resources of these sub-basins and the Ethiopian part of the Nile Basin. So this is for hydroelectric power, which is highly resourceful in Ethiopia because of geographic situation with big potentials. Irrigation, wherever that is possible, in order to take large-scale irrigation for developing the scale of the economy, and also to provide for the population, as you know, food resources, and as well as raw material, and that goes without saying. That's the purpose. And then, most importantly, Ethiopia wants also to develop the entire watershed because of highland situation of Ethiopia, and the land cover removal, and erosion, and so on. So this is also the interest. It's a huge number of areas that Ethiopia would like to develop the water resources within the country. And that development in Ethiopia would be best if that is taken up within the framework of collaboration, like they have been doing now in multi-purpose joint projects between Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. Water resource development in Ethiopia is at the same time some kind of development in Sudan. Water resource development in Ethiopia and Sudan is also related to the development in Egypt. For example, if hydropower is developed in Ethiopia cheaply because of the potential and because of the geographic good situation, then that could be pulled to Sudan and to Egypt. Watershed management, if in Ethiopia watershed is managed, land is rejuvenated, and erosion decreased, then siltation that goes to Sudan, fills up Sudanese dams, Rosaris or Sennar, would be quite interesting for Sudan. And I think that's interesting for Egypt also. So Ethiopia's interest is still to utilize the water resources collaboratively in such a way all countries can benefit from this. There was a poem by an Ethiopian poet. He passed away, I think, 3 years ago. He wrote about Abai, a big poem. It's in Amharic, fortunately. But he was not talking about that Abai is Ethiopia's, personal possession, but Abai the Great. By the way, the name of Abai is big, father. It's a fatherly, the resource that provides, that is very heavy, very respected, revered from Ethiopian side. That was the kind of sentiment poet laureate Tsaggaye ገብረመድኅን was trying to purport. Basically, the poet was talking about the greatness of the river. That greatness is not only at its source, that greatness goes all the way, building civilizations, building cultures, and also bridging between bridging the good things, friendship, respect, collaboration between the countries. That was the central theme of the poem. Actually, he was praising, the force, the power, the reverence of the water rather than possession of the water. Water war is a false theory, and that's a theory propagated by politicians, not by researchers and academia. And there is no reason, there is no backing that there can be water war, least in the Nile Basin. So they are dependent on each other. They have to cooperate. Water was there, even the states were not there, So water will continue forever for bigger population, for bigger economic needs, for bigger activities. So the only thing is to think seriously and to think empathically, cooperatively, and to consult how to utilize the water resources where it best benefits countries and the nations in the basin. I also love the Abai and all the waters that go down, together in the Nile Basin. I think the most important message I would like to make on the basis of my studies, not on the basis of this interview necessarily, is that there is no basis for fear against each other, one another. There is no reason to fight. And there is no reason that one country monopolizes the water resources, whether in the upstream or downstream. So this must be understood both by politicians, advisors, academics, and by everybody, citizens. So water is there for all of us, and water must be there for our future development. And people must really reckon with this fact and make decisions and use the water resources to the extent the water provides.